Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you joining us today. As you know, every week I have the pleasure and privilege to break bread virtually with coaches, authors, speakers, and global entrepreneurs. And today is no exception. In fact, Ashu Khanna, who's with us today, is the founder and CEO of Arka Leadership. She's an executive leadership coach and a renowned author. Welcome, Ashu.
Thank you so much, Gautam, and absolutely lovely to break bread with you, though virtually, and I look forward to breaking bread at some point in person with you.
Absolutely, and hopefully with the world opening up and India opening up a little more, that should happen sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us today. And each of my guests, one question I'd love to ask them right at the outset is what's their personal why? Because to me, every one of us, we're adding value, making a difference, and we go through different cycles as we are as entrepreneurs, but there's something that drives us internally. And I find that sort of really inspirational that to understand each one's why. So, what's your personal why, Ashu?
So some years, I would say about 15 years ago, I started with a personal why of wanting happiness and love, which is very universal. But I didn't have a definition for it. And gradually I discovered that actually to be happy and have love in your life, you have to live true to your inner voice. So my personal why has over time moved to really every day, every moment, living true to my inner self. And that's really where I operate from. Can I be true to who I am?
Fantastic. That's really simple but yet profound, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me.
So it's what drives me, Gautam, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Being true to oneself is one inner voice, and being aligned to that sort of authentic space. So that's fantastic. Thank you. Pleasure. So when it comes to the leadership space, which I know is your core area of value creation for corporate leaders and organizations, I'd love to know, what's your perspective on leadership in today's fast-changing world?
So leadership is often understood in a very limited way as somebody who holds a position. And right. I look at leadership in a lot more expansive or inclusive way. Anyone who takes leadership of their thoughts, emotions, energies, actions, really taking leadership of your choice and your free will and right. your inner voice, being true. You're taking really that inner leadership. For me, that is someone who is really a leader. And it doesn't matter if it is my staff at home who's being true to themselves and serving from that honest space, or it is a person at top. It's just about, are you really being that holistic leader? Because when you're being true to a facet of your life, something else falls off very often. Right. It takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline, dexterity, conscious awareness to bring all of our various areas and relationships of life together and keeping the wheels of motion, going on at all times, oiled up and moving in the right direction. Otherwise, there's a constant catch up. So leadership for me is not about this. I often distinguish it with SOLE and SOUL. It's not someone who walks alone, but someone who truly is leading with their soul and walks with everybody. Now, in today's context, it's become very important to be someone who is more humane. We're all talking about compassionate leadership, empathetic leadership, right. Leaders who are okay being vulnerable, okay saying, I don't know. Because that is when the space really opens up for other people to step up into their leadership. Right. You are letting go, you're making space to listen to others for ideas, for innovation, for actually understanding that humanity or the play of life is all about empowerment and unfoldment. Only if I move up can someone come in, and similarly the game just goes on. It's a constant fitment and up and down that goes on. So playing that consciously is leadership for me.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, I really resonate with the fact that leadership is not just about the leaders of the organization. Every one of us is a leader, and no matter whatever position, whatever role we're playing, even the team at home, to every professional working for an organization, to entrepreneurs, to see each one of us is a leader. We're a leader of our own lives, and to some extent, it's our self-leadership is sort of the responsibility that each of us need to take. So each one of us is a leader, self-leadership, and as you say, conscious leadership, and really embrace it in today's time, because when we're working virtually, which is sort of the role that we're currently playing, or the sort of environment, then I think, being authentic, being humble, being vulnerable is really the space we need to hold to be able to connect and engage with those we interact with, is what I'm hearing from some of the insights you shared.
Absolutely, because when you're not meeting one-on-one, otherwise one of the first things you do is have a coffee together.
Yes.
Not really doing that, and calls have become very cut to cut, because with virtual world there's so much of a Zoom fatigue. So at that point, if you really want to connect with people, you have to be yourself. How long can you keep that facade? And when you're working from home, you will have some clutter and clatter going on. You will have some amount of chaos which you can't suddenly shut away. You can't pretend that part of your life doesn't exist.
Right. No, absolutely. We touched upon in this conversation the word authenticity. But what does authenticity and authentic leadership mean to you?
Authenticity for me really is when there is no gap in how you think, feel, and act. People get to see the real you. There is no pretense, no persona being portrayed, projected out there. So what you get, what you see is consistent. And that's how trust gets established, Gautam. Because if every time I'm meeting somebody different, it's very difficult. If you're meeting the same person at all times, in all situations, it is so much more it's relatable. You can trust. There's a humaneness that comes about.
Right.
Authentic leadership really comes down to, are you somebody who is, are you a person who's taking leadership of being authentic at all times? We have the authentic self in us, the inner self, inner voice, many names to it. But when you really take leadership of not just listening to it, but trusting and respecting it at all times and serving from it, that's when you're being an authentic leader. And people can distinguish fake leadership, autocratic leadership. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, the only person you fool is yourself.
Yes.
Not the world. So all the personas that you may choose to wear, you're only hiding from yourself, never from the world. So the more real you are, the easier you make it for yourself.
Yeah, no, I very much resonate with what you're sharing. And I feel, as you are an authentic leader, you build rapport, you build trust, you build teams, you build collaborations, things progress because people connect with you. They connect and they feel a certain level of comfort. They resonate with that honest truth. If something's not working out, you're able to share it. If you fail and you learn from it, you're able to be vulnerable. And I honestly say in several of my conversations that vulnerability, I see it as a strength. Some people have said it's a weakness. And what do you agree that vulnerability as a leader is a strength, or is that a perspective you have?
So here's something I'll share with you. I have always, as a kid or even growing up, I was always labeled or sensitive, emotional, constantly told that. And a part of me stopped being vulnerable because I was fearful of getting that comment again come my way. Gradually, I realized that no, vulnerability is the highest strength I have, because it is my capacity to just put myself out there, which helps me connect with the world, because suddenly you open space for everybody to feel okay. And stories in the world don't change. Experiences may change, incidents may change, but stories don't change. We all experience similar situations, pains, grief. Emotions are the same. We are experiencing failures. Struggles are very similar. So when at a core level, when we are all experiencing that, and you are okay facing up to that and saying, yeah, even I have my tough days and I'm not pretending that every day is perfect. You immediately make room for another to feel comfortable around you and feel okay sharing. And I think that makes, like you said, rapport, collaboration, trust. You get deeper relationships, relationships that last you a lifetime. People will go out on a limb for you. uh, I have relationships running back where honestly there is no, sometimes I would put it as there is an imbalance of how much give and take happens, but things just come my way and come purely because I don't hold back.
Right. It creates like sound like a universal energy force that sort of creates those wonderful connections and opportunities out of being authentic as well.
So I'll share one. When you talk about breaking bread, I will. Years ago, 2006. There is that is when I met my coach and came into this whole space of coaching.
Right.
And I didn't even know till then anything at all about coaching. And it was a conversation that has led to between Lynn and me, the most beautiful relationships. I call her, she's like a mother from another land for me, literally, who's landed in my life, who holds my hand whenever I am struggling, no questions asked, no expectations, no nothing. I have never had, I don't think such a selfless, unconditional relationship is easy to come by.
Right. Phenomenal. Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I will touch upon coaching and in a little bit later because I wanted to elaborate on that. But I wanted to ask you about what inspires you to write and also share some insights on your latest book.
So my whole space of coaching started with not just discovering my calling as a coach, and I think even waking up to the reality that your inner voice is the guide to everything in life, all navigating yourself through life, being happy, uh, shedding your ego, the entire gamut that you have. Waking up to that possibility was, for me, was so huge, Gautam. It shifted, literally changed it's like the whole foundation on which my life was resting just crumbled, and I had to reconstruct my whole life after that. I pretty much decided to express that self of me in every medium that I can. So writing came as a part of that. Coaching, being a professional coach was one part of it. As the insights of my own transformation emerged, I started penning them down, and they translated into books one by one. My recent book, which I launched last year, I Am Perfection, there I've actually captured my entire life story as the journey of the mind, from the age of childhood to now. It's the whole journey of the emotions, which we call the mind, the unanchored emotions, the projected emotions, your ego, the intellect, how I've developed it. So it's been broken down into the mind as defined in the Vedas,
Right.
as described in the Vedas as manas, buddhi, ahamkara, and chitta. And I've used the chitta part, obviously, to narrate, be that objective observer, the sakshi bhav that I've narrated it with. So the main part of the main theme of the book is my struggle to wanting to be perceived as perfect everywhere, and discovering that perfection cannot be defined.
Right.
There is no concept called perfection. And I come across so many clients who are striving to be the perfect son, the perfect mother, the perfect professional, perfect, you go on in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about inner perfection.
Right.
So it was a huge wake up moment for me to say that, listen, this whole perfection that I've chased is the biggest illusion. It is only about inner perfection.
Absolutely. Fantastic. No, that's wonderful. And all your books, they're available on Amazon.
Yeah, Flipkart, Amazon, yeah, you get them, Kindle, all of it.
Excellent, excellent. Fantastic. Our mutual friend, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, who's ranked, number one leadership coach in the world, in his many speeches and conversations, he also talks about the Bhagavad Gita. And I did happen to come across, we have a one-page framework on the Bhagavad Gita, and I'd love to hear your insights on that one-page framework and how that applies to leadership.
So, when I got this whole collaboration of coaches and consultants together, and the ask that came constantly forward was, Ashu, put your work into a framework. And what clicked for me suddenly one day was that ultimately life is nothing but coexistence. It's all relationships. So the fundamental premise of my framework, firstly, is the relationship with self gets mirrored into the world. So the main premise I've taken is mirroring. Your vision is what gets mirrored in your actions. Your relationship with self is what establishes your relationship with the world. To put those four pieces together is where comes in the Gyan Yoga. When you know who am I, can you really express yourself in Karma Yoga?
Right.
As you get to know who you are and develop a relationship with yourself and express yourself externally and develop a relationship with the world, to deepen that and come to a space of being limitless, you need to really get into the self-leadership or the Raja Yoga space, the integrating the thoughts, emotions, energy, really bringing the energy together. And that as you're bringing your internal energies together is when the external collaborations become a very significant part of your life. You start understanding the whole principle of patterns, interconnectedness, oneness, all of that. So it's bringing the Bhakti Yoga. That's when Bhakti Yoga comes together. Right. And as these four come together, and obviously they're not happening sequentially, they're always at play parallelly. At all points, it is you're anchoring with your inner voice when everything is in congruence with your inner voice and in alignment with it. So as you anchor, align, and live with that is how you keep unfolding into that limitless human being.
Phenomenal. And you integrate this framework when you do executive coaching and you deliver programs?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic.
All my work throughout has rested on this philosophy, and it comes forward in all my work. And my training program, that my authentic leadership program, that's also getting launched next month, it is based on this entire framework unfolding step by step for people.
Great. I'm looking forward to that. And I definitely see huge value in integrating that with the delivery of these programs to leadership teams. So that's exciting. As we know, in the last year, leadership has really needed to embrace technology. There are leaders who feel, technology was something that they kept sort of on the back burner. But as you and I know, we've had to embrace technology. How has your experience been with, embracing technology in this fast-changing times that we're in?
So, Gautam, for me, it was honestly work as usual for a very simple, in many ways. Yes, I had clients came more virtually, meetings happened virtually, but as a coach, I have been working with other coaches and people globally from the word go. So I have been working virtually. So I think what happened was it stepped up. The difference was that it stepped up. I also am on all social media platforms. So again, that I think the number of videos may be increased.
Right.
So it was more a stepping up rather than an embracing it.
Right.
That's one part of it. And what that also did was, I think people became more comfortable and were therefore more accessible.
Right. Correct.
Because people were not traveling, and it saved my time like anything. I otherwise sometimes was traveling for a 2-hour meeting for 8 hours to Bangalore, and that was killing.
Correct. Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, even within Bombay itself, many times you're driving an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're having a half an hour, 45 minute or an hour meeting. I mean, you need half a day for one meeting. So definitely one of the biggest takeaways in this time has been the virtual meetings has saved a lot of logistics, and people's acceptance of that has been there, because in the past, culturally, people could have felt you were insensitive if you didn't make time to meet in person. Now,
Absolutely.
that's been a great transformation in the cultural acceptance of managing each other's time, and being able to connect like we are today.
Really couldn't agree more. And also what's happened is, because it's all virtual, people are more on time. Its meetings are happening more efficiently.
Right. Fantastic. I mean, talking of today's times, what I'd love to hear of your experiences, what opportunities and learning has the work from home presented?
So when COVID started in March 2020, I mean, the lockdowns in India, when it really suddenly everything blew up in our faces, I actually stepped up my activity of connecting with coaches globally and formed a global collaboration. And we were able to have our meetings month to month with practically everybody being available. So the level of activity that stepped up, the level of people also, what was brilliant was so many leaders were willing to be out there, available to inspire the world. So access to leaders globally became so much easier. We were able to host webinars with people like, the Paralympian Deepa Malik, with Naina Lal, with many other leaders who are really inspiring leaders. And it was absolutely actually a very an year of learning, a year of collaborations, a year of relationships. More importantly, a year that gave me so much space to do so much more. Like you said, logistics, you were not spending time on logistics.
No flights, no transport and car, a lot of time saved. So you actually had the choice to, communicate more seamlessly, be it in social media, be it for meetings, be it in connecting with your clients as well. So I think that space and time was in abundance in comparison. We all stepped up.
Yeah, so this whole framework actually and the training program came together because I had the space to do it. Also, I am now evaluating putting out an app, and all this creativity has happened thanks to the fact that I have that space and time to do more things. So it's been, I would say, it's been a really year of opportunities, relationships. Yes, there have been challenges in not being able to have that human touch and the inconveniences that come. And there's been a complete lifestyle shift.
Right.
But I think we've been blessed, very blessed. The very fact one doesn't get COVID, one is still alive, life's all good. I'm saying God's great.
Yeah, no, definitely it gave us a chance to pause, reflect. To me, I was anyway someone who was expressing gratitude, but I think gratitude was at an all-time high. The simplicity of having shelter, meals, family together was priceless. We sort of took that to some extent at times for granted because we were busy being busy. So we had the time to slow down and really introspect in many ways. So I think those are some of the highlights of this time. And it also prompts me to say, at the end of the day, we can't change what we can't change. So accepting this circumstance was the best thing we could do because that was beyond our control to do anything else. And once we accepted, then we were able to focus our attention, time, and energy. Okay, how do we use this time? What can we learn? Who can we connect with? What new value can we create from this experience? So it's not time wasted in stress, anxiety, concern, but it's a time of evolving, upgrading, upskilling, learning, and building meaningful relationships virtually. So I think
absolutely. See, there's just so much going on in the world, and there's so many people who suffered that it really gives you stock of your life.
Right. Great. One question about coaching that I wanted to ask you. I mean, you are coaching several leaders. I'd love to learn from you is like, how do you see coaching as sort of for leaders today in the virtual world? As you rightly said, you are anyway coaching, as we've seen virtually. But could you share some highlights of the kind of transformation you've been able to create for leaders with coaching in terms of the value for, let's say, people considering a coach? What would your sort of response or insights be to them?
So, firstly, I think any of us needs a coach at all, yeah, because if you are a person on a journey evolving at all times, and you will hit unknown patches at all times.
Right.
Having someone who you can share with when you're stuck, who's your sounding board, confidant, can be a mirror, a reflective mirror. That's priceless. Right. That's really priceless. And there are times even we don't know ourselves. Let's be real. Like the word potential is what's hidden, and and therefore it's often difficult to know what do I need to unfold, or how can I really unfold it and go forward next. Coaching leaders has brought about many different things. It does help them transition, whether it's positions, whether it is responsibilities, expand their role, expand their coverage, move out sometimes from being in a job to being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Working with entrepreneurs, letting go of a business and actually taking on a sabbatical to do the next one. There are difficult steps to letting go, understanding that any leadership is not about tasks, but it's about carrying a team forward. So there are so many facets to leadership that come in conversations. And the more you're stepping up on a leadership ladder, it is a lot more about people, strategy, putting the right message out there, being very clear on your vision. So one of the clients I'm coaching recently, one of the feedbacks that's come is people don't know what direction she wants to take. There is lack of clarity in communication. She's great at her work, but does she really spell it out? Now, often when you think you know it, but you don't say it out, you are creating a gap in perception. And it's those gaps which create the lack of trust.
Right.
And having a coach really helps you, see that you've created those gaps unknowingly and how to bridge those gaps. There's a leader I spoke to just yesterday, Gautam, and
right.
He says that he got passed up for a promotion 4 years ago, and he's been holding on to some anger for 4 years and compromising on his own potential. He knows it, but he doesn't know how to get out of it. So it's really a question of asking the person, are you ready to forgive yourself for having kept yourself in a hole for 4 years? It's not about anything else. So the space to heal, the space to explore, the space to identify your strengths and take those quantum leaps of faith. That's what a coach does, is provoke you, nudge you. I think you play so many roles as a coach. It's amazing.
Fantastic. No, thank you for sharing that. In fact, when people ask me the similar question, I sort of realize that, they think that coaches are for people who are not successful. But as you and I know, I mean, the greatest sportsmen in the world, the greatest CEOs have a coach. And so you can take any, from the tennis to cricket to football to CEOs of large organizations to entrepreneurs. And I really appreciate you sharing many facets of the kind of value that a coach creates, being a sounding board, a reflective mirror, career transition, amongst many other areas. Is having someone who's outside the box, because we're so in our business, you get someone external to sort of give you a different perspective, open your mind to possibilities. So really appreciate you sharing that.
So one of the sweetest incidents, if you saw, was tennis, when there was a little boy who kept talking at the backdrop with Djokovic, and he said he was like a coach who kept telling me what to do.
Yes,
and I thought that was such an beautiful acknowledgement to the little boy and the relationship they established on the spot.
Right.
And possibly defocused Djokovic from the stress that he was on to maybe getting onto his game.
Yeah, no, I recall seeing that video, and at the end, when he won that match, he actually went and gave the racket to that little boy.
Yeah.
So I recall that. That was a great example. Yeah. Excellent. No, thank you so much. As we come to the close of our valuable time together, you know that I released a book called Breaking Bread, Building Meaningful Relationships for Long-Lasting Success. I'd love to know, Ashu, what does breaking bread mean to you when you hear that term?
So firstly, congratulations on your book. It is, I think, one of the most, it's a big milestone in anybody's life. Writing a book, finding something close to your heart that you want to share with the world is a great milestone. So congratulations and all the best on that.
Thank you so much.
Breaking bread to me is about breaking barriers, just sitting together in a informal space and breaking down the barriers and being yourself, whether it's over a coffee, a meal, where you're not putting any personas out there. And that's when trust, rapport, personal relationships get developed. And if you notice, a lot of deals happen not on, not in meetings, but outside of the meeting.
Absolutely.
It's the meetings, I think, are more for just ironing out the details. So breaking bread is really about sharing those intimate relationships, opening your heart and your home to somebody at a more personable level.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashu. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers before we wrap up?
Gautam, you've had a fantastic journey you started at 21 with your dad, and you've also had a fantastic journey. So I would love to hear an insight from you before we close.
Well, thanks so much, Ashu. That's a first for me. To be invited back to share something from my side. But what I'd share is, to me, having an abundance mindset, to me, collaboration has been a joy, because my dad used to say, we must divide to multiply. So to me, the sharing of a meal at home, which was that sort of family ritual that we would do and look forward to, is really extended into the business. And, to me, whether you're sharing ideas, you're sharing knowledge, best practices, contacts, and creating value. So to me, I'm really grateful to my dad for imbibing those values in us from a young age. And we've sort of built the family business through relationships. And to me, that's where the book Breaking Bread really was, to me, just acknowledgement of that learning I had from my dad at a young age. And the way the business has grown is really because we've had the opportunity to break bread with our teams, break bread with our customers, and break bread with our speakers. And it's something that's brought a lot of joy, happiness, and fulfillment to me in this journey. But thank you.
Thank you for that. Actually, I would say that's something I learned from my parents too. Everybody was welcome in our home for a meal or any time of the day.
Absolutely.
And the whole ideology of relationships is the core and fundamental, is the ethos of life. I get that value from my family. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Ashu. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to have this meaningful conversation with you, and wishing you all the best of success, and look forward to establishing and growing our collaboration together as well.
Thank you again, Gautam. Fabulous, wonderful talking to you, and look forward likewise.
Have a good evening and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.